Many of you may not know, but our department provides free mediation services to businesses and residents of Los Angeles County. Many times, people who refer situations to nonprofit or government agencies are not familiar with mediation. So I'd like to take a moment to share what types of service we do provide. Mediation is an alternative dispute resolution service with the goal to resolve problems through dialogue and conversation. Our goal is to help parties communicate. Many times, parties feel that they're not being heard, whether it's by the landlord or tenant or business or situation where it's a consumer. Nevertheless, our goal is to provide services to the community at no cost, whether it's community-based mediation or matters that are court-connected, meaning that have an access to court. Community disputes may be disputes like neighbor-to-neighbor disputes, family issues that aren't already in litigation, or businesses that do not have a court matter pending. Anything to do with a court dispute, meaning court-connected matters that involve litigation, do have an access to the court matter, can also be mediated. We do unlawful detainers, limited civil matters, small claims matters. In any sense, our goal is to help parties communicate. The unique thing about mediation, many times, hear about investigations or about fraud being investigated. Mediation is actually a voluntary, confidential process where a neutral third party assists parties to communicate with one another. They're setting a safe environment for parties to be able to have dialogue. Many times, matters are resolved by just having that communication. Our resolution rate prior to the pandemic was 79% resolutions. So although I pride myself on the great work that our mediators do, it's not always about having a resolution. The goal here is for parties to communicate and feel understood. And that's huge because many times people feel like they're being ignored. So we really want to set that foundation for parties to just be able to come and communicate and have that dialogue that they may not be able to have without a neutral party. Some of the appropriate cases that we do deal with are landlord-tenant, whether it's security deposit, payment for unpaid rent, back rent owed during the pandemic. It could be any habitability issues where they're requesting repairs to be made. If there's situations where there's the landlord and tenant have a dialogue about breaking the lease, or if there's any rent increases, even though that shouldn't be happening during the pandemic, but if there are situations such as that, whether or not it's happening as a result of the pandemic, we do mediate those matters. Barking dogs, parking, noise complaints, similar matters to that. Anything to do with consumer merchant. During the pandemic, many people are unable to pay their debt. They're not able to make their car payment or credit card payment. And although the CARE Act may cover some of that, we can help parties communicate with the creditors so that they feel they're in control. They have part of the dialogue going, and it's, again, a conversation between the creditor and the debtor. A unique function of our department, our mediation department, is that we've been hosting online dispute resolution options since 2014. So what does that mean? That means that for parties that normally wouldn't be able to take advantage of in-person mediations, we have a platform where parties can actually make online bids. They could make an offer, and the other party could respond, all through the comfort of their home or business. They can actually chat with each other. They can do a portal message to the mediators. They can upload documents. Instead of faxing documents, it's just a process of uploading them to be able to easily be able to provide information, especially during this situation of the pandemic. One other program that we created back in 2018 is a mediation program for people experiencing homelessness. And that's huge. Unfortunately, a lot of times, most of the people that are experiencing homelessness may have issues with their shelters or nonprofit agencies where they're staying, and they feel like they have no control over the scenarios that are occurring. we pride ourselves on helping people experiencing homelessness try to resolve their disputes. And at the end of the day, it might not be necessarily what the parties are asking for, but it may be an alternative to not have being heard at all. If I have time, one of the most um, touchful moments when we started this program was regarding a person who became homeless. Um, Unfortunately, they were a professional person. They had financial means. They had a home, and unfortunately, they became drug addicted. This person became homeless, and then went into rehab. Successfully completed rehab, and then was being housed at a shelter. As you know, most people that are trying to seek shelter for the evening have to stand in line at whatever shelters are available. In this case, the homeless person shared with us that while they're waiting in line, that drug dealers were actually offering them drugs at no cost. And they felt that the shelter should provide um, more protection, more policing, more cameras, in order for them not to be engaged in the temptation of going back into drugs. Originally, they reached out to this shelter, and the shelter said that unfortunately it was not of their concern since the streets were owned by the city, that they had no control over that. As a result of our mediation session, we ended up being able to help the homeless person communicate with the shelter their concerns and why they were concerned. As a result, the shelter put in more lights and more foot placing for their staff to go up and down the line so that they would feel that there was uh, more attention so that the drug dealers wouldn't reach out to the homeless individuals. That was a success in its rate. And there's many examples I can give you, but that one in itself really points out the value of mediation and being able to help individuals feel heard.